You're listening to Mark Langley's Horsemanship podcast, a podcast helping people to provide solutions in a calm, connected way. I'm Jenny Langley.
And I'm Mark Langley.
This week, Mark's going to answer some questions on horses that are uncomfortable. This is going to include a horse that's uncomfortable with things on both sides of its body, behind its eye, one that won't walk past a certain point on a trail, and a really nervous off-the-track thoroughbred, and some tips on what to focus on to help that particular horse. Stay tuned, because we've got some great ideas for you. Mark, your first question comes from Sarah from Australia, who sent through a lovely email. Before I get to her question, she wanted to let you know that she's had an Andalusian mare who's gone to a few of your clinics. She's now sold that mare. She's found a new owner for her, and her trainer has mentioned how incredibly solid her foundation was and how soft she was to aids, something that Sarah puts down to attending your clinics and sticking with your approach. So now she's got a younger Frisian part-bred horse, and she wants to put all her focus into this new young horse and bring him on to be her forever horse. But she has some questions for you. In particular, she's been working on his leading and other basics like lifting his hooves and trailer loading and tying up, which he does fine. But now, as soon as something is on both sides of his eyes, he is completely freaking out. So I'll give you some examples. She's been long reining him, but he walks as if he was drunk, swaying from side to side so that he can always have her on just one side of his eye, not right behind him. If she's trying to rug him even very slowly, he'll freeze when the fabric slides over the other side to where she's standing. And she tried to do some of your latest video that you put on the membership of working a young horse off a hay bale. He was fine with her higher up until she got the flag and let it fall slowly over the outside of his back. He freaked and exploded forward. So Sarah would like to know, what exercises can she do to help him feel secure when things are on both sides of his eyes? Because obviously she's on one and then the object's on the other. It's going to be crucial when she's sitting on him later in the year with her legs dangling both sides of his body.
Yeah, you find that problem quite a bit. You know, there's especially a lot of horses that put a lot of, I guess, nervous value on a certain thing. So some horses will hyper-focus on things, but then because they've got so much focus on one thing, then when something pops up on the other side, they get a fright from it, okay?
So it's not uncommon.
No, it's not uncommon, and flipping the eyes is so important. Like I remember riding horses and working in long reins where I'm flipping the eye constantly, left, right, left, right, left, right, and then the middle. And some horses are just particularly frightened. So I want people to, what I try and sort of say, imagine being a horse. Some horses like to look through the windscreen and just keep the people in the windscreen. So imagine you're sitting in a car. And so the horse's eye, they can use that eye and roll it back and look down the side of their body, but they're using the back part of their eye. They can't roll their eye far enough to use the front of their eye. And if you look at a horse, if they really want to focus on something that they're frightened about, they turn and they face it and they use the front of their eyes. So it's almost like a lot of people, well, I don't know, has anyone backed up the highway at 100 kilometres an hour in reverse? And most cars don't do 100 kilometres an hour in reverse, but imagine it. I think I'd rather drive up the highway going forward, focusing in front of me to do that, not using the rear view mirrors. When a horse is frightened of something, and the horses that tend to be a little bit more nervousy, a little bit more focusy, focus on the problems or focus on the things, and they kind of want to tilt and get that certain part of their eye on that thing to process it. Okay, some people focus on getting the horse to face up all the time, and they encourage that on a nervous horse, and then they actually make the problem worse because they're getting the horse to kind of hyper-focus facing something because they don't want to focus on it with their rear view mirrors. Okay, so I just don't want to look in the rear view mirrors and see what's coming up behind me. I'm just going to turn around and face it. Okay, what we need to do as trainers is we need to get the horses to process scary things in their rear view mirrors. So you want to be able to think about the things behind you. So you're teaching the horse to back a caravan into a tight place, really. Teach them to look at all the things behind them and process it equally as good as they can process the things in front of them. All the lessons that I'm doing with horses is getting them to walk by and have me behind their eye, okay, on both sides. A good lesson to start with sometimes is just I lead the horse across to one side, and so the side of their eye is on me on one side, and then I just reach across and lead them back to the other side and just keep going. Left eye, right eye, and this is just me in front of them, and then put them beside me until they're swapping from eye to eye to eye, and do it quite regularly, like quite a lot. Not just keep them on one eye and work them on one eye, then work them on the other eye. You're going swap eye, swap eye, swap eye, swap eye, and you might do 200 swaps in a session where you've just swapped, swap, 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 swap until the horse is swapping from side to side. And when you're doing the long reining, you're aiming to try and do the same thing. So when you get, if you're already in a long reining position, before you do a lot of going forward, backing and moving around a lot, you just might swap you can do it in two ways. You have to do it in two ways. You can't just do it in one. You might just have the horse in the long range, and you might step from the left rear view mirror. So remember, you're looking down the left side of your horse, and the horse can see you with the left rear view mirror. And then you step across, and then all of a sudden you're in your horse's right rear view mirror. And then you step back into the left rear view mirror and the right rear view, and you just keep stepping across and across and across until your horse goes, okay, right, I got you. Yeah.
So you're not asking the horse to move at this point?
Yeah, you can do it without the horse moving. They may want to move, and you're just stepping across from side to side to side, so they just get so good at going from one rear view mirror to the other till all of a sudden the changeover has no rigidity in the horse, or a lot of times they'll try and flick their hip and beat you to it, and then they're like, oh, that's easy. And then all of a sudden you'll slow down and just wander past their rump. And then you'll see them just kind of not worry about catching you in the other eye. They'll just sort of relax in the middle for a moment. And they'll find that spot in the middle that they're not really too worried about it because you've done it that many times. And the other thing you can do is you stand still and you just move your hand across one way, and they'll move their hip across, and they'll put the right rear view mirror on, the right eye. And then you'll move them across the other way, and then their left eye will be on. And then you just keep getting them to just gently move softly. And then when you're feeling real soft and they're not flinching and trying to step over quickly so they can catch you in that eye and catch you in that eye, so they don't have you like behind both eyes or in the blind spot, because there is a little blind spot there that sometimes they get when you're right behind the rump. Then all of a sudden when they're swapping over really good, you just swap over and just slow them down through the middle until they can just stop in the middle of the long range and stand centered with you right behind their rump. It's just like you just got to do more deliberate eye swapping, and until they're like, oh, that's really, I'm there, I'm here, I'm there, and it doesn't really matter, okay? And the other thing is a really good lesson is if they're hyper-focused horses that always draw, you have to do a lot of them looking away. Now, there's some videos online of me working with a big, and this was one of the horses I was talking about before in another podcast, was one that had a lot of chicken thoughts, but he had a really strong eye when you led behind him, and he kind of almost like pressed his eye in on you. So we did a lot of working from behind his eye. So you're kind of in the rear view mirror sort of thing where you're standing. You might be standing near the shoulder, but the horse is ahead of you with its eye. And with a little flag or something, you come up behind the eye. So almost like that flag, if you're imagining you're in the horse's brain looking down that rear view mirror, that flag comes up behind the horse's eye just a little bit and then encourages the horse to look away and take focus off the flag. If you can get a horse to look away and focus off that visual stimulant behind its eye softly, they'll get a lot of trust in having things behind them. But if they're always constantly having to focus on that thing on that rear view mirror and that thing on that rear view mirror, it's really hard to keep going from rear view mirror to, and then they get really confused when we're riding them because we're on both sides of them and touching them all over. So you have to get a horse to break focus from the back of its eye, look away, and do that on both sides to an object that concerns it a little bit. And that is a game changer when it comes to getting a horse to trust things down its side. And then once the horse can do that visually, then you can go back to like with the rug, the feel stimulants and stuff like that. But it's the visual kind of what the brain's doing through the windows to the brain that you've got to fix first before you fix the feel on the skin.
Carolyn from Western Australia has got a new horse as well. She's struggling a little bit with him. He's an off-the-track thoroughbred. He's very head shy and very anxious of people, particularly worried about quick movements, and that could be by a person or by an object. He's not happy being caught in the paddock. He doesn't run away, but he sort of moves away when you get close to him. So he's very obedient when he's caught, and it's clear he's not comfortable. So Carolyn would like some tips, Mark, on how she can help him be more confident and comfortable. She's done a bit of basic leading work with him. He's been quick to pick it up, but she's taking it very slowly. She's done some approach and retreat in the paddock. So do you have any suggestions for her, please?
Yeah, I noticed something that you mentioned also was in the question was he's happy to kind of, he's curious when you're just doing something in the paddock. You're just out in the paddock doing nothing.
Yes, if she ignores him in the paddock, he's actually quite curious and he'll approach her.
Yeah. So that what that tells me is there is an interest in people and a curiosity, but he's been taught bad pressure off people that's made him worried. So he's more concerned of what people can do to him.
Wary.
He's wary of what people can do to him or he thinks will do to him, and the way pressure's been applied to him, opposed to the presence of the having another person in the paddock. So, like as a bit of a joke, I say to people, you got one of those horses that trusts you in your pajamas, but when you put your riding boots on and you come out with your riding gear, it runs off. So when you're in your pajamas, you're usually out there mucking and you're patting and scratching your horse and having, just being nice. When you go out serious, and if you apply pressure in a bad way, your horse is nervous. So if he's been off the track, a lot of off-the-track horses get sent around in a lot of circles in a round pen off sticks and energy and stuff like that. So he's going to be very receptive in a negative way to energy coming at him, things coming at him fast, because he probably thinks that means threat. So the approach and retreats you've been doing in the paddock is good, as long as you can start to ramp it up a bit and say, I'm walking up to you in a hurry. So right at the moment when you're just about to touch him, everything goes soft in you and you give him a really soft touch, and then you walk away just as fast. So you teach him that the intensity and speed of my approach is not a threat, because as soon as I come over to you and touch you, I'm going to touch you with my intention, which is softness. Okay? My intention is not my speed or my energy. Okay? So that's what you have to do in your approach and your retreat, is until you can run to him. And then basically and don't worry about the nervousness too much in the catching and waiting there and getting his attention. You can spend some time just teaching him how to lead better, flopping a flag, jumping up and down, swatting flies for a week and then every time you turn around and walk up to him in a bit of a hurry, you just gently touch him and say, you're a legend. And you let him feel that soft touch, and he just stands softly and go, oh, you come at me so fast, but you're so soft and kind when you touch me that I don't believe your body language is a threat when things happen in a hurry and stuff. I actually believe that you're just in a hurry, but you're gentle. And they start to see your body language as when it quickens, when it speeds up, when you're flinchy, as not a threat that you're going to pick up a stick and chase him or you're going to do this. And then they start to trust you more. And then you might find after 2 weeks of that, he softens in the catch more, because he knows he's not preparing for the next thing that he was taught at the racing stable, which is getting sent round or something like that. So yeah, and then when you're leading him, you might pop a flag in front of you or have a stick and, move it around. But you're always leading him through the field kind of with you, not pushing him away. And soon enough, he'll be like, oh, that's just white noise, that stuff, and it's not personal for me. And then all of a sudden he'll start to, you don't want a horse to drop their guard so much they become dull and just la la la. But what I mean, he'll drop his guard of you, and he's not going to be so worried about what you might do to him. So yeah, if you can just sort of, work him like that, and you'll find maybe he'll just soften in the catch over time.
And become quite soft. Some of those off-the-track thoroughbreds can be really soft after a while.
Yeah. But just quickly on that note, some people get horses that get distant in the catch and they get worried, and they spend a lot of time working on, connection. It's okay. I'm going to wait for you, and you're going to think to me, you're going to trust me, and you're going to, and that's okay. It's okay to do that. But where people kind of fail in doing that is the horse remembers being treated really bad with pressure. It's not going to help him get used to the fast movements. It's not going to help him when you're in a hurry. Because as soon as you go back in a hurry and are a bit erratic, he's going to go, no, she's changed into that racehorse person. So if you go too soft and too connective and too kind of making him feel really good, then you're not fixing that other stuff, which means it's always going to linger there and it's always going to come out sometimes.
Next question is from Pam Mark, and this is about the trail riding horse. So Pam's been a member for your online membership for quite a few years now. She says that she loves what you do in a kind but firm approach. She's got a quarter horse. She does the trail riding with him. She does a lot of riding with him at home. He's a push button horse at home, but out on the trail, when they're alone, he's not confident. So she does things like circles and side passes, backing up and rollbacks, and he'll do them beautifully even out on the trail. But he won't advance forward down the trail if she gets him down to this point that he balks at. So he mostly tries to turn around or he backs up. He doesn't sort of try and rear or doesn't make her feel completely unsafe. But she does usually end up getting off him and hand walking him past a spot that he's particularly concerned about until he's fine. So she does a lot of circles and bending exercises out on the trail just to try and help him get less nervous. But this spot where he won't go forward is a spot where there's not a lot of room for circling and not a lot of room for maneuvers. When they go out with a group of people, he'll pass that spot, but he tends to jig the whole time. So the group of horses almost seems to set him off. She ends up staying behind and letting him go ahead and then just working on a horse, because it's not fun riding a nervous horse the whole time on a trail ride. So she's feeling a little bit not quite sure what to do. She's the one that's doing all the training and work with a horse, and yet she's the one that has the least confident horse. Have you got any help and advice for her?
Most definitely. I answered a question very similar to this where, well, part of the answer was very similar to this is, by the sounds of it, you've taught your horse to understand your aids or your questions and follow the feel and do things like that. So if he gets nervous, you can interrupt him and give him something else to do. But that's not going to teach him how to solve the problem. It's only going to interrupt him and give him another pathway to follow so he's not completely frozen by an environmental problem. You want to be able to say to a horse, let go of that thought, follow my feel. But your feel in your training and the way you train your horse is empowering the horse to solve the problem, not take it away from the problem. If there's a kangaroo that's a mile away, well, actually I can't see a mile, I wouldn't see a kangaroo at a mile, but anyway, 200 metres away, that kangaroo's not a problem. So if the horse gets perplexed and fixated on the kangaroo, I will pick up a turn and say, let go of that, do something else. But I only take enough rein for the horse to let go of the kangaroo. I don't do circles, I don't do side passes, and I don't do backing up to say, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. I just say, I'll do enough to get the horse to let go and soften and then feel good at making decisions and searching. I won't do too much to just override it and just say, I'm in control. Okay, so if that's something that you think you might be doing, then address that as well. Okay, so but that's the kangaroo that you don't have to go through. It's, by the sounds of it, your problem is my horse is not going into the scary places, it's not walking through the valley of death, it's getting frightened and not wanting to go in there. Okay? And also it's getting troubled by all the other horses. So the more you take control of your horse, the less control your horse has over itself. So if you take control of your horse when it gets worried about other horses, then it thinks that if another horse kicked at it, it wouldn't be able to do anything about it because you're in control, not it. Okay, so some horses, you've got to work out how you can direct your horse through your feel to be in control of itself, not you be in control of it. Otherwise, they always get fractured around mobs of horses. They're always anxious because they can't do something for themselves to stay out of that horse's bubble, or when that horse up there flicks an ear, they don't want to be near it, or their bubble might be big around other horses and they need that space. So you have to listen to your horse, and if your horse says, oh, I'm a bit frightened about that horse, then you just maybe back up a step and ride off in a slight different direction. Just say, well, I'll just take you away from that horse a bit and let you relax, and then you loosen the rein and say, does that make you feel better? And the horse said, oh yeah, I'm allowed to move away from those other horses a little bit, or I'm allowed to do that. So you've got to give your horse a little bit of wiggle room around other horses so it can move away from another horse a little bit, not just feel it get a little nervous and then you take control and do something with it. Okay, so if you pick up the rein, the choice that you make with the rein when it's around other horses has to be something that makes the horse feel better and was beneficial for its anxiety. Not you do something with it till the horse just softens to the rein. You maybe soften the horse and take it off a little bit so the horse has got a bit of space so it can think about that mob of horses. But you have to be very thoughtful with your tools to create a soft horse that trusts you and your decisions, not just have it become soft and like light and obedient, I suppose. So think about that when you make your decisions to do your turns and all that sort of stuff. How you use your reins, like if you've got a horse, if you put a little too much emphasis on lightness, not confidence, then you'll have a light horse that's not confident. If you put too much emphasis on confidence and not lightness, you'll have a horse that just confidently walks off into the distance and doesn't listen to the reins, okay? So what you put your effort into, you will have, okay? To get the right balance, you've got to put emphasis on a light horse that becomes soft, because a soft horse has confidence, but it's also light, okay? So if you are doing any of your exercises with your horse and you feel your horse is just listening to your aids and focusing on your aids but not processing some of the environment and the things around it, and it's not thinking for itself, then you've got to put a little more emphasis on those aids, teaching it how to think. And then if you can work on that and understand that, then you won't have the well-trained horse with a fragile mind. You'll have the well-trained horse with a solid mind. It's tough, but if you can understand and make pieces out of what I've just told you, then you'll find the answer in that.
Final question for today, and it's an oddball question, Mark. It's from Louise from Australia, and it's about bitless bridles. She'd like to know, when are you ready to go from a bitless side pull to a rawhide hackamore boatle with a Mech8 rein setup? Is it something that you encourage, and is there a benefit in moving between these styles?
There is, and if I can sort of liken it to, like, and the Western people would understand a bit more about this than just this, maybe the English style riding people, or, is some people transfer from a snaffle bit to the one-handed riding to a bridle where they're riding one-handed in more of a shank bit, okay? I believe that in a bitless situation, going from a side full's like going from a snaffle bit to a shanked one-handed style of riding. So I think, like, some people put boastles on young horses, and some trainers let people ride in boastles, but it's very easy to put a brace in a horse with a boastle, especially if you're trying to use it as a two-handed attachment, because the whole twist of the boastle goes in the opposite direction of the bend. So if you take a wide hand, which you can do on a bitless bridle, you can take a nice wide hand and lead that horse over there. If you take that same wide hand on a hackamore with a boastle, you're pulling that heel knot right across and twisting the boastle in the opposite direction that you would actually want the horse to bend. Basically, your horse has to be off. I believe when you go to that sort of stage of riding and you're going to a boastle, you have to be at a stage in two-handed riding that the reins on the neck are starting to mean something. You're riding close. You're not needing to use your wide-handed stuff, and a feel of that rein. That when you pick up that feel and adjust it a little bit, the horse's thoughts are right there on that rein. Not, I got to get my horse's thoughts over. So if you pick up your left rein in the boastle, the horse flicks the ear and already softens to the left, so you don't have to drag the boastle and put it in an adverse position for the bend. So the horse knows that you lift that rein and it sort of, you lift that knot and it feels that rein on that side lifts up, and it's already created that nice bend without having to twist what's around its nose. So you kind of want them at a stage that they're working really nice close in your hands, and it's just a little bit of a finger feel. You don't have to hold the reins like you can in the side pull. You don't have to kind of do all that sort of stuff, and they're already balanced. They're up and they're kind of traveling nice, and then it's a lot easier. But if you're trying to do that heavy work with the boastle, you risk putting a big brace in them.
Makes sense. All right. Thank you so much for the questions that have come through today. We enjoy doing them. We're looking forward to another great year of podcasts ahead of us. Thank you so much to all our online members. We'll be back next week answering more questions. The accurate insights and solutions that Mark Langley gives are at the forefront of emotive horsemanship globally. You can learn them for yourself through his supportive online membership. Check it out with a 7-day free trial. marklangley.com.au.
Thanks, Jenny, and thanks, everybody.